for the closing session. This is the closure. And the closure will be opened by my colleague Gilles-Maurice, the Schryver, who will speak about the work of Meeussen, what he published and not published, and what ended up in Bantu Grammatical Reconstructions and whatnot. The floor is yours. This is not a magic show.
We want magic.
Okay.
I believe in that.
As you've noticed, we made our program in such a way that there is structure, but there's also some symmetry. We opened with something on our hero. In the middle of the week, we were interviewing to continue in it, specifically aspects that are only available in interviewing. And so we thought, as a closure, we could try to say what we haven't said yet. And looking at what my colleagues were preparing, I thought, let me break open a new topic. It's Bibliometrics. I've just heard that for some of you, it's the first time you hear about Bibliometrics. Okay, I've structured this into 3 parts. You can Google for Bibliometrics and read it up. But otherwise, in short, it is, of course, about publishing, looking at quantitative and distributional aspects, but also trends in certain fields. Okay, so given we want to look at what A.E. Meeussen has done, we must look first, the first part, at what preceded, then at his own work, and then, of course, since then. So these are the 3 parts. And the first part I call shoulders, for the obvious reason that we all know this metaphor best expressed as, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants, by... Exactly, but in this formulation it is by Isaac Newton, so 300 years ago, but indeed it goes back to the 12th century. Okay. We're not reconstructing this, but... and the idea to take this as a starting point was actually the opening, the first book or the second book that Thilo tried to get rid of. And as you know, he teleported it to direct nurse, but I intercepted it, scanned it, OCR'd it, and did the quantitative bits that Thilo, in the end, had not yet answered. So you were kept into suspense until just now. Now, the table of contents of that little booklet shows you that we're dealing with, apart from an introduction, descriptive works, comparative works, a few bibliographies, and then a list of languages. So, like I said, we digitized the material, put it in a simple database, which is just a spreadsheet, and it starts like this. It was also corrected on the way, so it's like now an EndNote or a Zotero database, if you want. These are the descriptive works. These are the comparative ones, the start of it, and it goes on and on. Notice that we, of course, start with Hyman. Then we have, it's a very small list, this one, the bibliographic works, and a list of languages. So what are the figures? Well, they're all on 1 line each. Well, Thilo suggested that this was what Meeussen actually... Sorry. Thank you, good. Keep doing it. What Meeussen had access to and used to do all of his work. We're talking 75, he died a bit later, but another way to view it is this is what was available at the time in Tervuren. This was their library. Well, there are 689 descriptions. There are 296 comparative works, so they treat a number of languages. Only 9 bibliographies, and then what I wanted to know, how many languages do they list at the times they were working? So these are the labels that they put on the books. Oh, we don't know yet. So the sum of all that is about 1,000, and the number of languages was 358. There are cross-references, so it's a bit less above. Now we're dealing with what, 500 plus 600. So, 1,000, we had memorized, because that's how he worked, memorized 1,000 sources.
This is narrow Bantu or Bantu?
This was the bibliography of...
Anything. But what
Almost
almost
all. You saw some Maniacky at the beginning.
Yeah.
So there was some 0-0.
Yeah. So, then you wonder, okay, if he had to deal with 1,000, what do we have to deal with? Might be a good guess. Yeah, good guess, thank you. Well, I thought we have a nice expression in Dutch, it's not the vingerback. So I thought, let me look at something I know. The KLC, by now you know this is the Congo language cluster. Student had a project, an ERC project on that. So I thought if I look at and I compare what used to be available in interview to what we used, I'll get an idea how the field evolved, I assume. Well, if you count them, for us the KLC is, but I'm sure you know, not only the H10, but also the B40, and a bit further, as noted there. Well, in that booklet of Bastin 75, you have 38 sources. So I say, okay, that's one element. What do we have? And what we call the Bantu again, share. So these are all the documents that we scan, digitize, put in a share, so nobody else has to scan them again. They're all available. I clicked the KLC languages.
To us.
Sorry?
To us, all the time.
And our sum for the KLC is 94, which would give a ratio of just, and do that quickly, 94 divided by 38, so 2.5. 2.5 times more compared to 75. Probably not representative, because they had a focus already on Central Africa. So I tried something else, I have a better picture, and I took, you can see from the date, Maho's bibliography.
No.
I haven't finished. But you can still disagree. In which, at the start, he says, I have 20,000, but of course that's way too many. And then he has about 13,000 that claim to focus on linguistics, but linguistics is still pretty widely defined. It goes from grammars, of course, and lexica, all the way also to language policy, what is social linguistic service. You may not find linguistic data in it the way we define it. But that's far more than times 2.5. I heard your guess, you said 10,000. So I think we have 10 times more to memorize, but we are more than 10 times more people. So of course we can do, or we should be able to do as well as he did. Okay, part two, now the interesting part. His publications. We've heard a lot about them already, so I'm going to try to fill in the bits that I think are also nice to look at. This is a timeline from 1938 all the way to, yes, more or less today, 2004. The first one he published in the year of his PhD in German. And the last one, as we know, is Mous still here now, is a translation of an earlier work that was published in Africana Linguistica into English. I'll come back to that aspect. So I've taken the last one, try to have a trend, so as in most careers, it's a bell curve. And this is also normal for people who have done extraordinary things because their work gets reworked, republished, and so forth, translated in this case. How many? You could try to add all this. So this is per year, and so up to 7 publications per year. Maximal economy. I quote this: Meussen's writings are characterized by an attempt at maximal economy in description and by the concise style in which the description is laid down. We know that. And in his publications, lucid formulation always goes hand in hand with a passionate search for originality and authentic depth of reflection. This was in an obituary by someone working at the time at the FBO, National Science Foundation. And the result of that is, as we know, and I've mentioned that, and many other people have mentioned that, you get articles going from a quarter of a page to half a page to 2, 3, and a few longer ones. But they are like mathematical formulas at times. We've just heard it again this afternoon. He also published, those were the times, a number of languages. His native language, Dutch, 41%. In French, that's, let me do it in the right order, Dutch. In English, 34%. In French, 21%. And as we've seen, a bit in German. We started in German, had a few. This is the distribution for German. Now we look at the distribution for Dutch. As you can see, so he starts but stops already in 64. This is his last one. I can see how these things move when we bring in French, and then especially the English part, you've moved through time. And of course, today, most of us, if we would write in Dutch, not only would the dean who's sitting next door be expletive, but we would not be read.
She publishes herself in Dutch.
That's the irony, yes. Of course, you can put all these graphs together, and then, but that's a bit harder to read quickly. You see how these things move through time. Given it's in a database, you can also look at types of journals and the publishers and the way he worked with. And I find this pretty impressive. He was all over the place, not only in terms of languages, but also Equatoria, African language studies, African languages, Africana linguistica, of course, and so forth and so on. It's the full list, it's from A to Z. If you want to read it, I'll ask Gordon to put it in Dropbox. Okay, if you now want to know where can his work be found, you may know about this database, WorldCat. If you want to have a book that we don't have here or that you don't have in your place, you can do an interlibrary loan to get it, and then you can use this database to actually help the admin people to say, well, there's one there in Missouri, or there's one in Leiden, and you save them some time. But they also have these databases, of course. And this shows you that there are, making sure I see it well, yes, 65 works in 152 publications in 5 languages in 536 libraries. That's the important part, the last part. So he's in over 500 libraries of the world. But this is an understatement, because, for example, Ghent University does not have all their works listed in this database. Does someone know why? You have to pay for this database. So this university decided we don't want to pay to be listed. So this is clearly an understatement.
Nice.
Gives you an idea. What is nice? That's But as you can see, and that's why I used it in color here, his own publications are in orange. Those that were published after he passed away are in green, and then especially the obituaries about him are in blue. Each of these things you can go to, and there's always the URL on the same page to see and go down that list to see what it is all about. But according to this website then, his most widely held work in the libraries is his Grammar of Kirundi, which indeed we keep referring to, followed by work on the languages of Manima, and then Lega, and then in Dutch, een linguïstische schets van de Bantu, which, of course, the focus of this database is not articles, it is books.
So, can I ask,
yes?
It says editions, but in English that would mean new prints. And something.
Exactly. So what happens is, if you pay to be in that database, the admin people who are supposed to be specialist in that, put in all the metadata. And if that system doesn't recognize the one you're putting in and thinks it's a new one, it's a new edition. So they don't sometimes, there are people who don't understand the difference between first and second edition versus first and second print. There can be any number of prints, that doesn't matter. But so it's very approximative, but this is freely available, and you'll see that, of course, I'm rarely happy with what other people do, so I'll propose something else to have real stats. You may have seen this. Koen asked me, for this conference, can you put this paper here, comparative Bantu test cases formatted, just put it on the website so that everyone can find it and use it before coming to this conference. Of course, you can create quickly a website and put it there, and then after a year or two you stop paying and it disappears again. So I was thinking, how can I do something that lasts? So perhaps we should stop taping. I did something like, it's called identity theft. I pretended to be
Nothing leaves this room.
I pretended to be this man, and where is it now? And I made an account on Academia.edu, which you can access. It's very simple. African Museum, Academia.edu, and then A.E. Meeussen. And I, like we do with all sources, I photocopied, what we call it scanning. We scanned, OCR'd, put the right metadata into the PDF and put it on this website. And then I thought, well, at least we must also add the Bantu Grammatical Reconstructions there. But later I realized you need to have a login to get the data. And I don't want everyone later.
Follow Meeussen.
Yeah. I don't get.
Can click on follow. We can follow.
We want to follow you.
Oh yeah, well you'll see later. Okay, but did people view this in the meantime? No one looked at it, and it's been put well, a few months ago already, while we were preparing for the conference, and even the one that Poon wanted everyone to read was only viewed 7 times. So no, academia for our discipline, it depends on which discipline you work in, but for our discipline, it's not hot. So I started again. I left this, so it can stay there. And that's where I really had to start arguing with the team and the programmers. I made an account on the ResearchGate, and they are far more serious. That's not an American company, this is a German one, funded by Bill Gates. Now, they wanted to know if I really exist. You know, you have sometimes to take a selfie with your ID next to you to prove to Google that it's you and so on. So how was I going to do that? In the end, I took one of his latest articles, redone in English, and I said, here's my latest article. And they accepted me, and I'm now a member of the community on ResearchGate. This is an older screenshot, and it doesn't update instantly like other things, but this is the one I want to go forward with. Let me try to even...
You put your name, okay?
Sorry? ResearchGate. This is perhaps a bit too big. Let me make it smaller. So now I'm really on the internet.
Did you put your birthday, I guess?
So...
Dates in there, so you
Oh, I think?
yeah, you see it's been a long day.
Oh, I see.
I'm not logged in. This is free now. It's with so I chose this because it's accessible to anyone and everyone. So I asked, you may have noticed just 2 hours ago, I asked Sebastian, give me one specific article. I'll still put it up. I've put it up. I want to make a point. Iets over de tonologie van de tweede nominale werkwoordvorm in het Chiluba. This is wrong. You see, ResearchGate is for the people of today. And they assume you cannot be older than 58 years. So 1960 is the bottom. That's ageism. I think the Americans should complain because you can't put your, you can't put your early papers on ResearchGate. You can, but the date will be wrong.
It's not the birthday, it's the publication day.
Yes, I know that. But you know when you started? That's about 60 years ago. No?
All right. Next slide.
Well, you're putting me to shame.
This is a lighter thing, we all agree, okay? No harm meant. Well, seemingly someone touched it already, it has one read. But if I go back to ResearchGate, the home page where I started, for myself, you can see that at least the goal of having people consult the article was achieved, because since it has been put up here, that's not the one I want to show. Yes. Comparative Bantu has been accessed 81 times, so it seems all of you have done your homework. Thank you. There is a log system that checks who accesses from where and so on. So actually we can see all that. That's part of the system. Okay, so what I want to say with this is, and this is our plan, everything that is already available in some form we put up, but we redo the character recognition because it's very often not very good. And the older material will be scanned from scratch. So the end point of this will be that it will be the full collection of the articles of Meeussen, being a total of, I've already said that? No.
Yeah.
Back to the overview. So again, but I did mention it, it's also a very easy address to get. Citations. Does he have an impact? Oops, too late. So, in addition to making the profiles I just showed you, actually before all that, I made another profile for him. I made a Google Scholar profile. Because Google Scholar has the advantage that it counts things that it already knows about, but then you can bring them together. And and what Google Scholar does, it counts all the citations of each work. Once it knows about
before 1960?
No, it tries to count everything. Of course, it's a computer, so they make mistakes. And my question was going to be, given Google sees everything, articles, manuscripts, maps, books, of course, that are in libraries, what is now the real picture? What has been quoted most often? What is the thing that we most often refer to? Like, it's way out. It is? Exactly. So it's on topic. This is our conference 542 times according to the machines of Google. And this is followed by essay of Rundi, then the Bantu Lexical version, Reconstructions. But you see how quickly the counts go down, the last column on the right, then on Tonga, followed by West African, something that's missing, West African languages, something is missing here. Then Igbo, Manos rule, I'm doing the top 10, I stop there. Bemba, the relative clauses, and finally, Lega. You know the study, so I don't have to do it. Now, it starts with 500, and just at point 10, you're already down to 24. This is a typical Zipf distribution, so that means that the rank something has times the frequency is a constant, and it looks like this. So some works are overly quoted, like in Citations 1, 2, and 3, and most are hardly ever mentioned in the literature. This is half the graph. I'm at 62. 62 of his publications have been, according to the machines of Google, cited at least once. But another 60 are at 0, have never ever been cited in any of our works. Which is why I decided to make that website and especially focus on these 60, to put them up, but they have a problem. The problem is that they are not in English. That is why, if you go to the Google Scholar profile now of Professor Meeussen, you will find the full list of 112. And I will discover more. I will just add them because I know a few more, but I still need to add them. The nice thing about using Google Scholar is that it is at all times live, so you can see who quotes, say, Bantu Grammatical Reconstructions. You get graphs like this over the years, who quotes. You can then also ask the software to focus on publications in a certain year. So if you want to know who quoted this work in 2018, you can get it out of it and so forth. So if you can go down to the bottom of this page, these are the blanks at the bottom. Who knows about, these are all zeros. Betekenis en bedoeling, 4 histogrammen, and so on and so forth. Isotachmen. So to solve now the problem of the language, if we go to ResearchGate, given the full text is there, that's interesting. Seemingly the network already of ResearchGate includes Lara Daming, Gilles-Maurice. This is all done automatically. Oh, but they've done it now, so they have received followers as I speak. Okay. View. I want to show you, if you, the last one I have just put up, just one in Dutch from, well, it's not from 60s, but earlier. And like I said, it is also OCR. That means you can grab the text. And if you don't know, you don't have a good command of Dutch, it's very simple. I think Derek Nurse asked me, how good is it? Well, we can try. Translate.google.com. I just put a section, I won't do the whole article. On the basis of, so this is the Dutch, automatically is translated for you, on the basis of what you so far published with fountain signs, okay, stone takens. It is possible, but this is automatic, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, and this is old Flemish. We don't even write like this anymore. So, what I want to say is, you may think of it what you want, but I think for some people this will be useful. So, all his early works, that long line with hapaxes, all the zeros, will be online soon. And if you don't know German, or even French or Flemish, it's actually Flemish, not Dutch, use Google Translate to get an ID, and look at the original to see the funny symbols, because we won't take the trouble to recreate those in the OCR version. Okay, we're going to wrap up. So I talked about, that's the one I just showed you. No, did I show you that? No. There is another issue. Sometimes, you know, material has been translated. This is an example. A very early one that it was mentioned, was found, I think, by Thilo. This very early work, a bit longer than the others, 7 pages, was in the end but as difficult, if not more difficult than the others, was translated into English and was in the first volume, the first issue of the Leiden journal. So with the counts, what do you count? Well, here is klinkerlengte in Google. Klinkerlengte. I will first make sure I have the full list. Yes, now klinker lengte was quoted 3 times. So, is it worth it, what you did, as a question?
Yes.
It is called vowel length. Vowel length. It has been quoted 18 times. It's better, but not like... what is the ratio? 18 divided by 3.
What's the matter with you guys?
Okay.
Almost like chasing rings.
Then in this example here, the tones of the imperative, okay, I'm already translating, in Chiluba from 1950, that is now the last one, in Afrikaner Linguistica, tonen van de imperatief. 1950, never, ever.
No, that's in
Yes. That, that's what. Okay, made a mistake. True. I'm comparing apples with pears. But the point is, there are cases, I took a wrong example, there are cases where you go from 0 to a very impressive number. Okay, this one is not impressive yet, it's 2014, you have to give it 2-3 years, given our field, of course. And then finally, what I want to point out is this one I already talked about, yes. Any questions?
And in time, that's magic.
How does it do compared to Guthrie?
I can reply to that. The first day I had the idea to start all that. I'm sharing the office with soon-to-be Dr. Gom, and we talked about it and I said, oh, you know, I'll finish this tonight, and tomorrow I'll do Guthrie. Until we started realizing, hey, this is a big job. This is a very big job. 112 publications, and the way I want to do it right, meaning it must be readable text, not the junk you get for some journals. If you would grab the text, it's all gibberish that you get. And I want the metadata right, meaning that the machines can find it easily. I know how the machines search, so I want this to be all right, future-proof. So, do I continue and then move to Guthrie? Or do you say, we have these things in our libraries, and the young ones have them in their libraries as well.
That's so absurd.
Where's Lutz?
Did Guthrie anyway publish very many short articles? I don't think so, did he?
I will not say.
Oh, he did. Like in Teke, right?
Teke, yeah, that's one.
And we would need someone to explain them.
Google Translate.
Any other, no questions of course, but suggestions of what I could do better or different?
Well, I can say one thing, is that I put all my stuff on Academia.edu, and I got an advice one day saying, the more keywords you put in and the better your abstract is, the more your readership will go up. And I found this to be very true. That if you put a good abstract in and lots of relevant keywords, it increases your readership very dramatically. So I don't know how far you've worked on that side.
Yeah, I have my own pages and I know about that.
Yeah.
And when you put up a new one, you see these spikes. The more keywords, the more people come. But of course, a lot is not relevant, but...
You said that it's not much use in our circles, academia. What is it, the academia?
Yes. No, I know about
that
Roger's page, of course.
I would never look for Meeussen on academia.
But if you know Google, you can try it.
Yeah.
You will find the pages that I started creating.
Exactly.
So even if you don't know about it,
If you
search. Sorry,
Yeah.
if you use a search engine, search for A. Meeussen. Among the links, even on the first page, you will start seeing.
it gives you the academia things, the Google.
ResearchGate, right?
Yeah, Google Scholar will I mean, most people find my papers not through going to my page, through searching on Google Scholar. So it works very well.
I'm not the chair, but can Jacky say something?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are already 3 followers. Right. I saw one from the.
Yes, he was the first one. I was going to announce it, but then Lara spoiled it. And Guillaume, they suddenly, as I spoke, became followers.
And do you know him?
Do you know him?
That's it, Gerard, I forgot his name. He's not a linguist. He's from geology. He's from Burundi, and I think he arrived there because of the Institute of Burundi. He would be disappointed because I think he would follow, expecting other.
Oh, Koen has become a follower. Okay. So you'll see, but the problem is becoming a follower. You'll really start. That's a setting. You can see the updates. As I put material up.
That's right.
And one of the things I start is a group, Lolemi. I could start other groups. A way to extend it would be to use this as a launchpad to put more up. More, not only by Meeussen. I think. Yes?
I just wanted to say, I haven't followed him, but nevertheless, I got an email earlier today that said an author you have cited has uploaded a paper, and it was
now,
Something you've uploaded that's related to your work, is that what you just said?
Yeah, an author that you've cited just uploaded a paper.
Oh, okay.
ResearchGate
Well,
very
I
impressive.
haven't gotten that yet.
But I didn't do it.
Maybe it's a scam, let's see.
so but it's good that the field knows who is behind this. It's important. I'll put it in my last Wilsbeschikingen. I put the codes to access all that. You have to think about the digital future after I'm gone.
Yeah.
Someone will have to take over. All of you know, so I'm safe. I can fold now. But I can share it with a few in the team. But to manage this, it's one of the things that even Facebook has to think about. What do you do with someone who passed away and all this digital material? But you could also say, I did not sign any consent forms. Perhaps I'm going too far by putting this up. But they can trace me because there's a back email, and I even have to sometimes put in a code, and they give me the code to go back in when I change computers. So they know it's me, the systems. But if you say go ahead, we go ahead.
Okay, enough to just raise the registration.
Thank
If we
you.
have to bail you out, we'll just raise the registration fee.
There is no fee. That's one of the things I want. It must be there. It must be free, accessible.
No, I mean if they send you to jail, we have to get you out. Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes I do illegal things, of course, in the sense that I take the paper, I take away all the copyright issues and all sorts of things. So it's the paper itself. You don't see where it comes from.
Okay, this is getting biblical dimensions. Meeussen revives again. So. Thanks.